I'm Larry Steinhaus.
And I'm Rick Lee.
Welcome to Money Chat Today. This is a show where we help people make more money and help them keep it.
That's right.
And today we have a special guest. Our special guest today is Phil Falcone, and he is the author of a book called Addicted to Real Estate, Why I Can't Stop and Why You Should Start. To tell you a little bit about Phil, Phil is a Philadelphia area full-time real estate investor who started in the business at the age of 23. His portfolio includes commercial offices, apartment buildings, and residential homes. As the owner of Falcone Real Estate Holding Corporation, he prides himself on his non-stop real estate focus and determination, his ability to be a great professional speaker, and on his fun, outside-the-box approach to real estate. Phil actually considers himself an addict. From the first investment property over 20 years ago to his relentless search for the next great deal, Phil Falcone is a non-stop real estate investing machine. Phil tells people that sometimes addiction is a very good thing. In his book, Phil will show you how to achieve amazing success as a real estate investor and as an addict. The book and Phil are both funny, frank, and informative. Here to tell us more about his book and his addiction is Phil Falcone. Welcome, Phil.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much.
Nice to have you on the show.
Glad to have you today.
I just love to listen to people talk about me. Can't get enough of it.
So you're not shy, right?
Come on.
That's good.
So you gotta tell me. I mean, I'm fascinated by just the concept that you say that you're addicted to real estate. Tell me what that means.
I fell in love with the concept of real estate as a teenager. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I was raised to believe that ultimately, I was going to be in business for myself. So as a teenager, I was always looking for, what that business would be. I knew it'd be in business for myself. I just didn't know exactly what field it would be. And I worked for a guy when I was 17 years old, and he owned one piece of real estate. And we used to spend a lot of time in the car together. And he would explain to me the concept of the business and how it all worked. And I just immediately fell in love with it. It's something real that you can see, you can touch, you can improve it, and you can rely on yourself to make it successful or not. And that's really what appealed to me about it.
That's really cool. I mean, everybody talks about being an addict, and we mentioned in your bio that being an addict is not such a great idea. But in your case, it actually seems to be working for you.
It can be a good thing. It depends on what you're addicted to.
It's true. It's true. So look, we all know what's going on in the real estate market today. The real estate market today is nothing less than disastrous. I mean, look, people who've read my book know that I actually lost a ton of money in real estate by making some bad choices. So how would you recommend people not make those bad choices? How would you say that maybe it is a really good market, or would you agree that it's a good market or a bad market for people to invest in real estate?
Well, what I heard many years ago, and it's stuck in my head, is the old saying that if you want to be successful in business, there's really one rule you got to follow, and that's do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Let's face it, is anyone buying houses today? Nobody is.
True.
Absolutely nobody. Well, what I'm doing is I am Pac-Man right now. I'm gobbling up as much real estate as can possibly be purchased by me.
Wow.
And my plan is to continue that trend for the years to come. Definitely 2011, 2012, 2013. My prediction is that things are going to be completely flat or continue to go down slightly. And we won't see any increase in the real estate market until at least 2014. Now, nobody really knows for sure, and a lot of it has to do with the political environment. But at this point, I am a non-stop real estate investment machine. I'm buying. I like to tell people my saying these days, get busy buying.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. It's funny. I'm looking at your book, and by the way, this is Phil's book, Addicted to Real Estate, and I love the cover. It's really funny.
Yeah,
He has two people sitting on the beach, and one says a $12 million portfolio with a 7% annual increase is $840,000 equity, and then it looks like the wife is saying, "Phil, honey, are you listening?" And very funny. I mean, right away when you look at the book, you know that the book is funny. And actually, I tell you what, it's a pretty thick book. We went through the book. Rick and I went through the book. And we were fascinated at some of the stories that you tell. For example, tell us probably your worst real estate deal that you ever had.
Well, anybody who's in this business is going to make a bad deal here and there. And, my wife always reminds me about the one deal that I screwed up. She never mentions the 21 deals before it that were all successful. all of us real estate investors make mistakes. I mean, I wrote about my mistakes in this book in great detail because you can learn as much from me about the mistakes that I've made that you can from the successes. One deal in particular, which there's a biggest chapter in the book, is called the 1600 building. I don't necessarily call it a mistake, but I came dangerously close to losing everything I had.
Wow.
Just like you were frank in your book about what happened to you, I explain it in great detail in my book how I became almost obsessed with the purchase of this massive building. Make a long story short, in March of 2008, I was scheduled to settle on this building. It was a $4.2 million investment for which I had signed on the dotted line for all of it. I was scheduled to open in November of 08, which, talk about bad timing. It would have been a disaster. In case you've forgotten, November of 08 is when we first heard stories like worst economy in 75 years. I was scheduled to open my doors that month with a loss of $1,000 a day the day I opened.
Oh, wow, that's not something to look forward to.
Right, and you got to read the story to understand what happened, but I got lucky. I dodged a bullet. But, you know, lessons learned in life. Maybe somebody up there likes me. I don't know.
Sounds like you made some good choices. So what is your best deal?
Well, the best deal that I've made, I also wrote a very thick chapter about it. It's called Executech Suites. It's a office building in Huntington Valley with 47 offices in it. I bought it for $2.1 million. Great story. I bought a $2.1 million building with $10,000 in the bank. If you want to read about how that can be done, you got to pick up a copy of my book and read it because it's too complicated to explain here. But that particular decision, I took a big chance on that building, and it has been feeding my family ever since.
Wow.
So it's
fantastic.
When I tell people I'm addicted to real estate, I mean when I go to a building like Executech Suites, it's not just a building for me. To me, it represents the smartest decision I ever made in my life. It represents a business and a piece of real estate that has been feeding my family for over 5 years.
Wow.
And I literally have personal feelings for that building. It's my sweetheart. I walk up and down the hallways and I see a mark on the wall. I gotta get rid of that mark. I can't have my girl, my sweetheart walking around with a blemish on it. So when you have that kind of attitude, when you feel like you really love a piece of real estate, you love a business, maybe that has a lot to do with the success that I've had with it.
So tell me a little bit about how, look, in this market, people can't even get mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
How are you financing these deals?
I'm doing almost everything 100% what I call creative financing. I'm doing a combination of the various things. Forget banks. Banks are done. The conventional way that most people would figure they would buy a piece of real estate is you put 20% down, you go get a loan from a bank for 80%. Forget it. Conventional deals are dead. If you haven't heard that before, you just heard it now. It's official. They're dead. I don't bother even calling banks anymore. There are a number of ways an individual can buy a house today without the support of a bank. And the best way is you find a private investor, somebody who has money, wants to invest in real estate, but they don't necessarily have the skills or the knowledge or the desire to invest in real estate themselves. I'll borrow money from a private investor and I pay him an interest rate on his money. He becomes the mortgage company, he becomes the bank, and I am the investor. Other ways are seller financing. There are a world of people out there today who want to sell their houses, and many of them are owned free and clear. How many people do you think in this world today, let's take the Philadelphia area, take a guess, how many people do you think own their homes free and clear in the Philadelphia area?
Wow, I wouldn't even...
Probably hundreds of thousands.
Okay. Well, in a percentage-wise, do you have an idea?
I would say 5 or 10%.
It's actually 28%.
Wow.
Right? Which means that's almost 1/3. That means one of every 3 houses you look at, the people own it free and clear. If someone owns their home free and clear, you simply say, I'd like to buy your house, but I can't get a mortgage right now, so would you be the mortgage company for me? And you structure the terms and the price according to the 2 parties involved, myself and the seller, and you figure out a way to get it done by doing seller financing. There's other complicated techniques today that I'm using called subject to, where I'm taking over the terms of their existing mortgage, subject to whatever the terms of that mortgage are. And I basically buy their house with the current mortgage in place, and I make payments on their mortgage. So that's just some of the ideas that I'm using today.
How many banks will let you do a subject to?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because anytime I bring up the phrase subject to, people go, but, what about the due on sale clause that's in every mortgage? Okay, think of it like this. The mortgage companies, the banks, they do not like it. They do not like subject to, but it's a legal strategy, right? So what happens when they find out that the house has been sold subject to mortgage? Well, they could foreclose on me, but if I'm making payments, they don't have the right. They'd have to actually stop accepting my payments, which would then take 8 or 9 months before they could even get me to a sheriff sale, right? And quite frankly, with all the problems banks are having today, they're just not doing it. They're not doing it.
Makes sense to me, actually, yeah.
As long as they're getting paid, do they really care where the check is coming from? They're not happy about it, but it's a little used strategy that very few people know about. So, you know, I have not heard of a single, I've heard of a single case, but I don't have the proof that it's actually happened, that a bank has foreclosed on an individual paying that payment. They got too many problems that are of their own to worry about, let alone creating more.
So you actually take the title into your name, but you keep the existing mortgage. Is that what you're doing?
That's right. You buy the house with dirty title. Okay? When you normally buy a house, you buy the house free and clear of any encumbrances. In the case of a subject to mortgage, you buy it free and clear with the exception of one mortgage. Now, the mortgage stays in the person's name, but I own the house. I have the deed.
That's amazing.
What's happening? I'll tell you what. A lot of people think and they say to me, well, this can't be a legitimate strategy. Really? Look at the new HUD-1 that the government has sent out about 6 months ago, which is now the mandatory HUD-1 to be used. There's a line on there for subject to mortgages right on there.
Really? Wow.
It's government approved.
I'll tell you, as you know, I had a little history in investing in real estate. I never did anything that complicated. I'm amazed by how it actually works. It's great.
But people today have no choice. Look, I want to buy real estate. I've already made that clear. But if a bank's not going to lend me money, what am I going to do? I'm going to find another way to get it done. I have to. I'm a full-time real estate investor. If I don't make real estate deals, I don't survive. I have to do it. And these strategies, while people are suspicious and cautious about it, I provide them a list of references. I'll tell you a real quick story about a subject to mortgage. I did a deal with a woman in Fishtown, and I did it in November of last year, November of 2010. She was very, very concerned about the subject to process. She made me promise her at settlement in November that I would pay off her loan in 6 months.
Okay.
And I really wanted her house, so I made the deal. Okay. I wanted to leave the financing in place, but I made the deal. She was delinquent on her mortgages, and I brought her mortgage current at settlement, and then have been making the payments on her mortgage.
Okay. Great.
Well, around the 5th month, which was just recently, I found a private investor to replace her mortgage, and I paid off her mortgage. And 3 days later, she called me up and she said, "Phil, I want you to do something for me. I want you to forget what I said. Don't pay off the mortgage." I said, "I'm sorry, it's too late. I promised you I would, and I did." What she didn't realize was by me making payments on her mortgage in her name, I was improving her credit.
Of course, right.
And after she saw me make 6 months or 5 months of payments, the fear went away, and she said, "This is amazing. This guy's like gonna, if I just leave it there long enough, this guy's gonna bring me to an 800 score." Too late. I paid it off.
So the downside. I'm sorry.
No. I just said, how about that? That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah. She now loves the subject to mortgage, but it's too late. It's too late. She doesn't have anymore.
So the downside would be for the person selling you the house. The downside, or the subject to, if you didn't pay their mortgage, their credit score could be hurt. That would be the downside. The upside is if you pay their mortgage and they haven't been paying their mortgage, they can increase their credit score. Now, what about the downside for you? I mean, obviously, the foreclosure issue, the subject to, if they sell the house, the bank can come after you. That would be a downside for you. But are there any other downsides for you that are obvious?
To me, it's simply a game of I can't get financing. Right. So if I can assume their financing for a while, it doesn't have to be forever. 4 or 5 years from now, when the environment changes, I'll refinance their mortgage. Okay.
Right. Sure.
But for me, there's no downside because one of my biggest challenges is how do I get financing? Well, here's a great way to get financing. Just
awesome.
use the existing financing that's already in place.
It's awesome. Fantastic idea. And there may be times where there's a lot of equity in the house where you give them a little bit of their equity up front.
Yeah, usually what happens is, when I explained it today, I said, well, I bring in a private investor and buy the house for cash. Or I'll take over the mortgage subject to, or I'll do seller financing. But the truth is, what really happens is I do a combination of these things. Right? Maybe I take over the subject to mortgage and I give them some cash. Or I take over a subject to mortgage and I do a little seller financing. Sometimes I do all three.
Okay.
You become a deal engineer. You have to figure out a way to get it done because we can't get it done through the conventional means that were previously available to us.
Now, in your book, which absolutely fascinated me, you talk a lot about the mindset. In fact, I actually bookmarked that chapter. Your book could also just be a book not just about real estate, but about success thinking. Would you tell us a little bit about the mindset of the successful real estate investor, how you think?
Well, I'm a student of the game of life. That's the way I view it. I'm addicted to real estate, but I want to hang around with and get to know people who are successful. I want to spend as much time associating with individuals who are as successful or even more successful than me so that I can too become like those people. And if you don't have that kind of mindset, man, that's where you got to start before you talk about any of this other stuff.
Makes sense, absolutely.
I actually heard the theory of association when I was around 25 years old. And if you haven't heard it, it's a really simple theory. You become the average of the 5 people that you associate with. And so you want to try to associate with successful people who are doing things you want to be doing, who are going in places you want to be going. And you also have to disassociate with people in your life who are having a negative effect on you.
Absolutely.
So the first thing I did at 25 is I disassociated with everybody I knew. All I had to. None of them were doing anything. And then I decided, well, maybe one of my friends was marginally acceptable, so I called him up and I started to associate with him. And he had a friend who was having some marginal success, and I called him up, told him I wanted to associate with him. So I got myself to have 2 friends at this point, and me and these 2 guys, we spent a lot of time together, and one of them was a realtor who taught me a no money down technique, which I document in my book, which I later coined the phrase the all money down technique. And I used this technique that my friend's friend taught me to buy dozens and dozens of houses with essentially no money down. And that was so I heard this theory of association. Then I changed my friends. Then something happened to me where I learned a technique which catapulted my life, not only emotionally but financially, to improve like a rocket ship. So I can literally look back at my life, one idea, the theory of association, which changed my life forever. So I'm a big, big believer in, your mindset has everything to do with your success.
That's true. Well, Rick and I need new friends, so.
So do I. I can always use a few names.
So I hope you feel we're successful enough to be your friends.
Yeah. If I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't be on your show here today. I mean, watching your television show, it's a great way you're sharing ideas, things that you're learning, people that you're meeting that you think are interesting. You're sharing that with your audience, and that's tremendous. And it's one of the reasons that I have my own show as well. It's called Addicted to Real Estate TV. You can check it out at addicted2realestate.com with the number 2. And I do the same thing. Every time I learn something new, I can't wait to share it with people.
Yeah, I've seen some of your episodes. They're actually very good, and actually I want to talk about that. So tell us a little bit about your website. You have that. You have you have a subscription service too, where they can sign up and they can actually get the videos once a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, my website addictedtorealestate.com has a lot of information for people who are interested in being real estate investors. There's a picture of a book there. You can click on the book, and it takes you right to Amazon.com where you can read the first 20 pages. And there's a video there. You can watch some of the TV shows that I've done. You can also check out the blogs. And if you put in your name and email address, you get a free subscription to my TV show. If you're interested in learning about real estate investing, some of the techniques that we've touched on today, you definitely want to put your name and your email address in there. And I promise people I don't spam them. I send out a show about once a week, just like you do, about once a week.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And like I said, I've seen the show, and I have to admit, it's very, very good. I also have to absolutely recommend the book. The book is awesome. It's really well written, and and we were talking before. It didn't take you very long to write it, which surprises me too. So you must have been at that typewriter all day long, or the word processor all day long.
Well, actually, I didn't write the book. What I did is I talked it.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Right.
I used the program Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Oh, okay.
So
That's a good tip for people who want to write a book.
So I sat in front of my computer with a microphone and I talked to my computer for as many hours as it took to produce the book. And several times in the book you'll hear my dog barking, which actually came out in the text. Just ignore that. It was my dog coming through the microphone. My kid came into my office and I said, "Hey, what are you doing? Can't you see I'm writing a book right now?" So, I'm kidding. That stuff was edited out. But when you use Dragon Naturally Speaking, anything you say ends up in the text. So.
Very, very cool.
It's a great way to produce anything. If you need to write a lot for anything that you're doing, you definitely want to check out Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Yeah. Now, one thing you mentioned in the book that just jumped off the page at me, you mentioned that every time you deviated from your strategy, you got popped.
Yep.
And I've found that in my own life unfailingly. Every time I have a strategy for what I do, and every time I think, I'll do it a different way this time. Bingo. I pay for it. So, just like there's a mindset to real estate investing, you also have a set. You go in with a set strategy, right?
Well, you have to, like any business.
Right.
You need to figure out what you're going to do, and then start doing it. And when you figure out something that works in real estate's really a simple business. Okay, people think it's complicated, but it won't take you that long to learn it. You dedicate yourself for a year or two. And you'll learn the business well enough that you can go out and do it and be successful at it. And when you come up with a formula that works, just do it over and over and over again. It becomes like a blueprint.
Very cool. Actually, it's funny that you say that. I actually did the same thing. That's what happened to me. If you read in my book, I say I did stop following my own rules. I was investing in real estate for 20 years successfully. I stopped following the rules, and boom, I got hurt big time. So I agree. You have to have rules, and I noticed with a lot of other things I do, I write the rules down that I have, and I look back and say, this is a mistake that I made. A certain checklist. Don't make that mistake again. And I'm wondering if you do the same type of thing.
Well, you're not the only one that's happened to. I remember in 2005, I was the real estate expert. I was the real estate professional. But I would see people or meet them in different places, and they'd be telling me how much money they were making in Florida, and they were buying 20 houses at a time in Florida, for example. And I must admit, I was tempted to even and then I'd have to stop and say, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm the expert, not them. What am I following them for? But the truth is, it almost happened to me too. If you read my book, I stayed up here, but I was buying very aggressive $4.2 million office buildings, losing $1,000 a day the day they opened. I almost got creamed. Of course, I didn't know that the economy was going to drop out the way that it did, and that would have been the doom of me had it happened. But
yeah, I used to say when you had bought a house, if you were renting it, if the the value of the property went down, the rents went up, so you were always safe. I've never seen an economy like this where rents went down and house prices went down. That threw me for a loop, because I knew I was over leveraged in all my homes, but I also didn't realize that I thought the rent was safe.
Yeah.
But the rent was, 20, 30, 40% drops in rent if you could rent them in some of the areas that I was in. So that was my mistake. And I'm really glad to have gotten to know you, because I won't make those mistakes again. And now that my credit's been hit by those mistakes, I'm going to learn some new strategies to invest in real estate and get back in.
Well, people say to me all the time, I don't have any money to invest in real estate. You don't need money. That's right, you heard me. You don't need money.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, Phil, but I don't have any credit. You don't need credit.
Right.
I'm not doing any financing with a bank. Okay, now, if I were to call up a bank tomorrow and say, I'm interested in buying a piece of real estate and I need a loan, first thing they'd say, send me all your tax returns, send me all of this, send me all of that, send me all of this. I'd send them all this stuff. And then, quite frankly, I think that they would just sit on it. They won't do anything with it. Because it's happened to me too many times in a row already. They sit on it for a couple of months. Well, we're reviewing it. Finally, you figure it out. They're not reviewing anything. They're not allowed to tell you. We're not lending money. So, you might have luck if you're dealing with your primary residence. You might even have luck if you're dealing with a secondary residence. But when you've got a lot of properties like I do, forget it. You're not bankable as far as the banks are concerned today.
Well, Phil, it was great to have you on the show. And listen, If you want to find out more about Phil, Phil's website is at the link below us. And is there anything else that we should know before we go?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I mean, I'm involved in a lot of different things. I've got my book, I've got my web TV show. You can check out some of the stuff I'm doing at Addicted to Real Estate TV. And if you sign up for my web TV show, everything that I do, I make a video about. So if I'm publicly speaking anywhere, there's a video. I'm opening up a new business called Realty Mark, which is a real estate office on 309. It'll be opening in the month of June. And
what township is that?
That's in Montgomeryville.
Montgomeryville,
right.
Pennsylvania.
Right.
Some of our audience is outside Pennsylvania. Okay.
Right. And what I'm going to be doing is it's $100 a month, and you get to keep 100% of your commission. It's the greatest deal realtors have ever had before them. And I'll be releasing videos about it. So if you'd like to learn more about it, just put your name and email address at Addicted to Real Estate TV, and I'll be sending you interesting things that you can learn about real estate and business in general.
Wow, Phil, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's amazing how much you've got going.
Yeah.
And thanks
Fantastic.
again. There you go. Thanks again for being on our show, and that's it, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.